By 1899, the age of outlaws and gunslingers was at an end, and we've been mourning it ever since. Welcome to the Outlaw Haven, your home for Red Dead Redemption and the Wild West. I'm Sam.
I'm Zai.
Today we are talking about the Heartlands. The Heartlands is one of the many regions within Red Dead Redemption 2 and arguably the most popular area in the game. Its geographical location is similar to the real town of Valentine in western Nebraska. The Heartlands are a vast region of open grasslands in New Hanover, overlooking the mountains to the north and the Flatiron Lake in West Elizabeth to the south. The Heartlands is a favorite to many because this is where the game opens up to free roam, and our first camp at Horseshoe Overlook near Valentine, which we will get into more next week. This week, we are taking a deeper look into the Heartlands, home to wildlife like bison, pronghorn, white-tailed deer, turkeys, and rabbits. It's also home to curses, serial killers, family secrets, UFOs, O'Driscolls, treasure hunters, and so much more. To many of us, the Heartlands feel like home, particularly Valentine. Valentine is the first town we get a good look at in the story, as Hosea would describe it as all mud and morons, but it also includes a general store, doctor's office, gunsmith, hotel, bank, sheriff's office, stables, a small theater, train station, and 2 saloons. Oh, and a curse. So I didn't. I don't think I knew that Valentine was cursed.
Hmm.
I don't think I've heard about this. You
Oh,
were the
really?
really brought
I
this
think
up.
I first stumbled across it on a Strange Man video, and it's basically all kind of cut content from my understanding, but it's mentioned like in the game as well, like in Horseshoe Overlook. Mary Beth and Karen will talk about Valentine after you go there.
Yeah, I do think I remember hearing Mary Beth talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Because yeah, she'll kind of course, immediately be like, oh, a town, a curse, so romantic. But everyone kind of in that town like basically blames their bad luck on like the supposed curse that Valentine has. But if you listen around town and like to all the different lines, you can hear some of the like you can hear the shopkeeper and the barber in Smithfields talk about how some blame the Native Americans
Hmm.
because if you look into the game files, there's a map that was originally cut. It's was torn into 4 pieces, and you were supposed to go around the map and find them all. And of course, they were all drawn on, and when you put it together, of course, you got a map kind of similar to how the like serial killer maps work. And put together, it shows Native Americans and settlers fighting, and then but the entire scenery matches like the scenery around like the Heartlands. We can see the hills of Amberino to the north, and then like the hills of Cumberland Forest and whatnot.
That's
And
cool.
of
I wish
course,
I would have kept that in. That sounds like fun.
right? And it's interesting because there's also way more too. There's artifacts that were deleted. There was supposedly going to be another like mask, kind of like similar to the masks you can get in Red Dead Online from Madame Nazar, like the Halloween looking ones.
Dang.
That was supposed to be like a Native American mask. And that's kind of really all there is with the curse. It doesn't go anywhere further than just like dialogue in town because, of course, it was cut content. But it would have
Okay.
been, yeah, kind of interesting to see. But it's like, it makes sense after like everything that there is in Emerald Ranch, kind of why they cut it at the same time.
Yeah.
But in town, other than the curse, of course, there's a few little interesting events you can have when you first do the first bounty that after Uncle suggests that, oh, you can bounty hunt. When you do the Benedict Albright bounty, which we'll get into in a different episode, when you bring Benedict Albright back into the sheriff's office, he will be talking with a woman. Sheriff Malloy is talking with his mistress named Moira, but it's a short cutscene. She
Yeah.
leaves, doesn't say any dialogue,
You just kind
but
of interrupt them.
yeah, um,
Awkward.
very. After this conversation, if you go upstairs to the sheriff's office, you can hear Sheriff Malloy yelling at his mistress, and he full on kills her.
I've never gotten this. Like, I never thought to like go creep on them. You just go outside the sheriff's and go up the stairs behind the building.
Yeah, not even behind the building, just the one that's on the side. Because if you go up the one on the side and on the back, it's got the back door, and if you stand there, you can hear the whole argument and then him choking out his wife
or his mistress.
Yeah.
Huh. I'll have to go back. There's so many times like when we're talking about this on here that I'm like, damn, I've never had that happen. I need to go play another playthrough.
Right. Yeah. And then
there's the Peeping Tom.
The Peeping Tom, which
and one of the houses, it's like across the street from what's the other saloon? It's just a saloon, isn't it? Not Smithfield's the other one. The little saloon that you go to touch. If you go across the street to that house by the sheep farm area, you can find a couple guys peeking in a window.
And then afterwards you can peek in yourself and just see the couple.
Lower your honor a little bit.
Lower your honor, but yeah, they're just completely like 3 sheets to the wind.
Oh, rockstar.
Gotta love them.
Then there's the veteran that isn't a veteran, but he just needs a hug. Mickey. Do you hug him? You probably don't. You're
sometimes
do. When you play.
Occasionally.
I feel like you would just antagonize Mickey.
At first I did. Kind of when like he actually tells you that like he's not a veteran, I'm like, that's interesting. But then I feel like I'm like that way with like so many of the like random encounters in town now. I'm just like, okay, I know what you are. Skip right by it.
Yeah, same.
One I didn't get for a very long time, I didn't even know was in the game, was the killer prostitute.
Yeah, it took me a while to find that one too.
Yeah. If you go into Valentine at night, you can find a prostitute covered in blood outside of the Smithfield saloon. And she'll ask you for help. And if you go upstairs, she'll lead you into a bedroom with a guy just sprawled out on the bed, dead. And you can either carry him to like the pig pen, kind of by one of the houses.
Yeah.
Or
right outside.
You can like not help her at all, or you can actually hog tie her and bring her into the sheriff's station, and I think you get like $10, and then you can see her actually hang later on.
Oh, I didn't know you could see her hang. I knew you could turn her in. I just didn't know there was more to it.
At least I think you can see her hang. I might be wrong about that. I might be thinking of a different bounty. But yeah.
There's also the theater.
Oh yeah.
Have you gone in and watched?
I've watched some of them. I'm like, I need to go in and watch like all of the shows and stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember what. The only thing I remember about the Valentine one was that it was about like why bears hibernate. How the bear like hibernated over winter, and when it came out, then all the other animals were dead or something. At least that's what I remember of it. It's like, been a while since I did that one. It's
by the Josiah like Blackwater dude. He's got, it's a nod to Red Dead 1. I think there's a bunch of like articles in like the Red Dead Redemption 1 newspaper. That would be kind of a cool episode. Just newspapers.
Yeah, seriously, the newspapers are full of so much stuff.
So much. Especially with Red Dead 2 and Red Dead 1 combined.
Right. There's quite a few other encounters in Valentine, but they're all like, you find the one guy like beating his wife, or you find the duel fighting, and
and then of course there's like the stranger missions and stuff you can start there too, which we'll get into a little bit.
I think we're gonna have a whole separate episode just for stranger missions.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so much. But since it's by Valentine, if you go to the train tracks, right where like there's a little tiny bridge right before you get by the train station, you can find a
very graphic scene. It's a sight to behold. You walk up, there's a trail of blood that literally leads you up to it.
And
But
I think there's some limbs and stuff there too.
yeah.
I think you can
I
find an
think
arm
there's
to
an
finally.
arm or a leg or something. On the rock, there's painted in white. I don't think it's painted in blood. I think it's just white paint, but it's look at my works. And then we find strung up
A torso.
a torso. And then a little bit to the left, there's the head with a rolled up map sticking out of its mouth. And then you can go ahead and collect the map. That'll give you one of the 3 parts of the serial killer. There's 2 other parts to it.
One is Scarlet Meadows, and the other
Scarlet Meadows. The other, I
I
think
think
is
that's in
Big Valley.
Yeah.
I always forget where the one in Big Valley is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
When you get close enough to it. I know it's along the railroad tracks, kind of like if you follow from Wallace Station. It's
okay.
It's pretty close to Wallace Station.
Yeah, because I'm like, the one in Scarlet Meadows, that's right on the road by Braithwaite's.
Yeah, that tree is so creepy.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's probably my favorite of the 3 clues.
Yeah, that one's
And
cool.
then, of course, if you collect all 3 of the maps, it'll show you like a combination to a lock, and then it'll take you to Lucky's cabin, which is just a little bit outside of Valentine. And you can, of course, explore in there, find bounty posters, newspaper articles to body parts. And if you continue to the back, you can inspect, I forget what it is you inspect, but you inspect something on the ground, and then the serial killer comes and like puts you into a quick time event where if you don't throw a skull at him fast enough, he'll actually kill you. But you can tackle him and hog tie him, take him to jail, and you'll see him hang. And his name's Edmund Lowry Jr. And oh wait, no, you won't actually see him hang because you shoot him because he goes and tries to attack the sheriff.
Yep.
Forgot about that.
Isn't he based off of like one of the real life serial killers?
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously his name, Ed Kemper, and I think there's a few others. I would have to replay the side mission and.
Wasn't Kemper from like Wisconsin or something?
No, that was Ed Gein.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a little bit inspired by Gein too, but because Kemper, he was, if I remember correctly, mostly SoCal.
Oh, okay.
At least later in his career.
Just climbing the corporate ladder.
Yep.
Anyway.
I mean, to be fair, he did work as a police officer, and that's how he kind of got away with it for a while. Anyway, this is not about serial killers.
This isn't a serial killer podcast.
That would be fun.
Anyway, speaking of secrets, let's get into Emerald Ranch's secret.
Yes. You can go ahead and take that one, since you kind of wrote about it a bit more.
I did write about that one a bit more. Emerald Ranch, when you go there, it looks like it is a big place. Like there's a saloon, there's cabins, but when you go into the saloon, there's nothing there. It's just dusty and riddled with bullet holes. And if you go outside, there's a grave for Joshua Burgess. So the rancher at Emerald Ranch is Eugene Wagner. He has a daughter named Miriam Wagner. And Joshua Burgess is Miriam's boyfriend. And everyone talks about how Emerald Ranch is a strange place and no one sees the rancher's daughter anymore. But apparently if you go outside the big house at Emerald Ranch, you can see Miriam in the window at like 2 a.m.
It's 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then 9 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Well, maybe that's why I've never seen her.
Yep.
I've never found her. That would probably explain it. But this is also where we go to the fence, where we meet Seamus when we do the mission with Hosea, which we will talk about more when we get into the Chapter 2 episode. But it is nice having the fence there because that's where you can sell your wagons and...
Yeah, and the only spot where we can actually sell wagons.
Yeah, that is. This is also in online where you meet Maggie Fike. She adds another bullet hole to the wall.
Yep.
By the way, but that's pretty much it for Emerald Ranch, isn't it?
Really? Yeah. I mean,
As far
of
as
course,
what we know about it.
what we know about it. I mean, know Miriam used to run like the general store like across the street, which of course is why it's closed now. But there's a random encounter you can get like on the way to Emerald Ranch where there's a woman that her horse fell over, and if you pick her up and take her back into Emerald Ranch, she'll kind of basically like talk about how it's kind of strange and whatnot. And you can hear from like the workers that Eugene like overworks him, and well, he will quite literally get into a fight with you if you stand in front of him long enough. I mean, most of the
Yeah.
NPCs will.
Yeah, that's true. So close to Emerald Ranch, there is it actually called Henny's Brothel? Or Bethel. Bethel. Not
Yeah,
brothel.
it's called Penny's Bethel.
Henny's Bethel. Okay. Not too far from Emerald Ranch, there's Henny's Bethel. It's a broken down shack, and inside there are skeletons who have all poisoned themselves. And at the table in the back, there's a letter that tells us that if we come back at 2 a.m., something will happen. And sure enough, if we do that, a UFO will appear. If you go to Mount Shan at 2 a.m., there's another UFO, which we will talk about those two when we get into the Easter eggs episode.
Yeah.
But I want to find that letter. I want to read the actual letter that you find there, because that one's so weird. The letter is called the Mysterious Sermon. The Mysterious Sermon says, at the second hour, under the half moon, by the great love and grace of our Savior Kakawaba.
I have no clue how to pronounce that.
Kawaba, voyager of time and galaxies. We cast off our corporal shells so his vessel can take our spirits to the promised realm, to live in peace and power until the 2000th year, when we will return for the new chosen and worship once again at the peak of Mount Shan. In his love we rejoice always. And then you find the UFO at Mount Shan too. I know it's based off of something. I guess we could just get into that when we have the
yeah, when we get into the Easter eggs.
What it's actually based off of. But that one, like when I started playing Red Dead 2, I spent so much time just finding all of the Easter eggs, and the UFO was hands down my favorite. I love that.
Not too terribly far away from Horseshoe Overlook, there's a burned down town that has a saloon, a general store, a sheriff's office, and a jailhouse, and a few other buildings that we can't make out. But if we go into the jailhouse, there's 2 dead prisoners inside of the 2 cells, and they most likely died of smoke inhalation, is my best guess. Well, smoke inhalation or starvation, one of the two. And if we go inside the jailhouse, underneath the burnt desk, we can actually get a gold bar there. But outside of the saloon is kind of where things get interesting, because there are multiple blue barrels that are wrecked outside, and they have Cornwall, kerosene, and tar written on them. So a lot of people are thinking that Cornwall either did this or somebody did this with Cornwall's like barrels, of course, to like make him look bad.
I never noticed that.
My guess is it wouldn't be far off for Cornwall to really do something like this.
Yeah. I could see it. Plus, there's also, if you like, that whole area of like trees and stuff is all burned, and if you go into the trees, I think they're on like the other side of the path that you come down from.
Yeah, that's a little bit of ways away
but
though.
Yeah, but it's still burned.
It's
There's more burn shit, and there's a camp there, and you can find, I think, a letter in that campsite.
I think so. I mean, I think there's at least 2 skeletons, but and yeah, a lot of people do contribute that to Cornwall's thing, but it's like for it to be so far away
Not that far away. It's like across the street.
I mean,
If someone was lighting Limpany on fire, it could have spread that far.
kind of, but at the same time, it's like, why is none of the area between Limpany, Horseshoe Overlook, and then the fire not burned at all?
I don't know.
But,
We can find whoever Let's go ask Cornwall. If he started the fire, let's ask him.
right?
Did you burn down these trees too?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Go have a chat.
Have a chat.
There's also, I mean, aside from that, there's also other random events. Like, you can find a prospector who's panning for gold on the Dakota River, and all he ends up finding is a gold nugget, and you can steal it off
I
of
would
him.
steal his horse too.
Yes.
Because you can't get that Dutch warm blood until chapter 3.
Yeah.
There's also the riding down by Limpany. There's the man that's trying to look at his horse's hoof and gets kicked and killed.
Yeah, that's also you can get that by Emerald Ranch. Ooh, and Blind Man Cassidy.
I love Blind Man Cassidy.
We'll get into him way more when we do our
Strangers
episode. Even though really he isn't a stranger, it's just a random event. But he's a blind man that, I mean, break it down. It's just Rockstar telling us, what the future of the games are, but it's really well done.
Always gives you like a riddle that's relevant to what's going on.
Yeah. And if you go down to the coast by Flatneck Station, you can find a dying man, and he'll like come up, and
Arthur thinks he's already dead, or John, whoever you find it as, but
right.
I think he's already dead. And then he gives you a letter.
Gives you a letter, and his like dying words are like, "Tell her I never stopped." And if you read that letter, it's to a Miss Bonnie McFarlane. And of course, those who played Red Dead 1 know who she is, or even Red Dead Online. She, of course, owns McFarlane's Ranch in New Austin. Of course, we'll get into that when we eventually get down there, and of course, once we get into Red Dead 1. Also, outside of Flatneck Station, we come across a guy named Phineas T. Ramsbottom.
Oh, yeah, no, I did not have that one ready. Not what I would have guessed.
But he has a bunch of cards and secret cards and whatnot. But he gives you like the introduction to being able to collect all the secret cards, and there's 12 sets of secret cards, 12 cards in each of them. There's 144 total. I have never collected every single card. I want to. I haven't done that yet.
Like, you mean like actually going out and finding them, or you've never gotten all the cards?
I've never gotten all of the cards.
Are you serious? You have to do it for 100%.
You only have to do one set.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I did way too much. I found them all. Well, I cheated kind of. I didn't go around and find them all.
Yeah, just go into the general store and rip open the premiums.
Yep.
That's what I did too.
Smoke one and buy another one. Smoke one.
Oh, I don't even smoke it. I go into my satchel and discard all.
Oh, I was gone for no reason.
Your poor stamina bar.
Oh, John was suffering. Standing in the general store just smoking 100 cigarettes to try and get all these cards. Poor guy.
But there's a whole bunch of different sets. The artwork on the cards are really cool. They're great.
And at one point, like, if you bought like the fancy edition of the game, when you if you got the actual like box that Rockstar had, which I didn't, you have it, you lucky bastard. Doesn't it include some of the cigarette cards or a cigarette card? Yeah,
you get a box that has one card from each of the sets.
Dude, if I would have known how much I was going to be obsessed with this game when that game came out, I would have bought that. And I'm so pissed at myself for not doing it.
I want to go through I've seen on Etsy, they have like actual, like people have gone through and printed all of the secret cards.
It's so cool.
I really want to go through and just order the entire thing.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, it would be a lot of money, but it'd be worth it. But also, kind of by Flatneck Station, you can find a guy looking for a treasure map. His name is Maximo. He ends up, of course, giving up on the treasure hunt. He will sell you the map either for $10 or $5, or, of course, if you're me, you can kill him and steal it off of him.
Which I have also done.
But
Like giving you my $10.
no.
Meanwhile, Arthur has like $3,000 in his pocket.
Yeah. But he will give you the map for the Jack Hall Gang treasure. And the first location is on Citadel Rock, which is just a little bit away from Horseshoe Overlook. But we'll get into this when we do a episode on like the real life outlaws that inspired the gang. But the Jack Hall Gang is very heavily inspired by the James Younger Gang, and in camp you can hear renditions of the Ballad of Jesse James and Cole Younger. And of course, Jesse James is Jack Hall, and I forget who Cole Younger is in the game. But yeah, we'll get into it when we do our episode on that.
Jack Hall's song is based on the folklore Cole Younger, which tells the story of outlaw Cole Younger. Both songs mention California and Nebraska, the robbery of a train owned by a company with Union in its name, and the Northfield Bank robbery.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would, because, well, yeah, I guess that would be the Cole Younger one, because Jesse James is
That's all I found, sorry.
talking about his death and his 3 kids, even though there were technically 2 kids.
So getting into more of the side missions and things. In Valentine, we meet Theodore Levin, who is a writer, having a drink at the saloon with Jim Boy Calloway. And we have to go take his pictures that he gives us and go find Emmett Granger, Black Bell, Billy Midnight, and Flaco Hernandez. And Jim Boy Calloway is hanging on by a thread, let's be real.
Yeah.
But Jim Boy Calloway, while we were doing research for this episode, tell him what you learned, Zai. What did we learn about Jim Boy Calloway?
Quite literally learned this like 20 seconds ago. Jim Boy Calloway is actually related to the doctor in Valentine, Ben Calloway. They're cousins, and those of you who have gone around to the back of that doctor's office know that there is a heavy steel door around the back of it, and if you look in there, you'll notice a familiar Irish accent, which brings us into, I guess, honestly, the O'Driscolls. They're pretty big around the Heartlands, but in the back of this doctor's office, when you find that they're running a little operation back there, you can go in there and rob the back of the doctor's office, and it'll get you a Schofield revolver for free, which is great. One of the best guns in the game, in my opinion.
But we've already touched on the O'Driscolls quite a bit in Chapter 1.
Yeah.
But they're much more prevalent, I think, in Chapter 2.
Yeah.
They basically run the Heartlands.
Yeah.
There's all over Valentine.
Yeah, there's plenty of interactions with them in Valentine.
There's like 2 or 3 moments where you can stop the O'Driscolls from like killing someone or just beating someone up outside of Valentine, and then like there's multiple O'Driscoll ambushes while you're riding along the road. There's camps, there's hideouts, there's the doctor's office. They're everywhere.
Yeah. And it's like, of course, it's most prevalent. We'll get into this when we get into Horseshoe more, but with a mission with Kieran Duffy, the former O'Driscoll that you take from their hideout up in Amberino, he will bring you to 6 Point Cabin. Granted, yeah, that's a little bit out from the Heartlands. Technically, it's in Cumberland Forest, but that is such a small area. I feel like it's hard enough to figure out secrets in that area. It was hard enough to do this episode.
But let's get more into the O'Driscolls, because we see so much of them in the whole game, but especially in this area. And before we get into chapter 2 next week, I think we need to talk more about them because it's going to come up so much. And the O'Driscolls are based off of the real life Dalton gang. And much like Como Driscoll, the leaders were ruthless and often cared little for the lives of their followers, hiring anyone who could ride or shoot. The real life Dalton gang was from 1890 to 1892. They were also known as the Dalton brothers. They were three brothers, Bob, Grat, and Emmett, but there were 9 members in total. And I think they were starting to see more Irish members in gangs in territories like Nebraska and Colorado.
Yeah, because it's like, even them, they weren't exactly Irish. Like, they grew up in Missouri and Kansas. James Dalton, he married Adeline Lee Younger, who is an aunt to Cole and Jim Younger, who, of course, became part of the James Younger gang later on. Well, not later on, but because James Younger gang was already done and dusted by the time that the Dalton gang started rolling around. So it could be part of the reason on why even the Daltons started their robberies even to begin with.
Yeah, and the O'Driscolls in Red Dead 2 seem to have like hundreds of members. Real life gangs were typically smaller. They were usually only like 3 to 8 people. So like the game portrays the O'Driscolls as like a almost bottomless army of goons, whereas real life gangs were generally tightly knit small groups.
Yeah, I mean, as Dutch literally says, Colm doesn't give a damn about his men. All he cares about is numbers. If you can shoot a gun and ride a horse and kill without thought, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see that because mission after mission and event after event, they just pop up seemingly out of nowhere, and they're seemingly endless. And I mean, they're prevalent throughout the entire story.
They are, and even though the game implies like massive recruitment, which was not typical for the era's small-scale outlaw operations. Well, the O'Driscolls themselves are fictional. They represent outlaw gangs of the Old West that were eventually wiped out by modernizing law enforcement at the turn of the century. They were meant to be a more typical depiction of a gang. While we love the Vanderlyn gang, they're more like a cult where Dutch is a leader with some strong philosophical ideals beyond just robbing and killing.
Yeah. And it is interesting because in the Paying a Social Call mission with Kieran, we do hear Kieran being like, you both look the same. And I mean,
and you look, but you ain't seen.
Yeah, to be fair, he's been tied to a tree for
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. Well, probably 3 weeks at that point. Plus, well, being up in the mountains. So it's like, how much am I going to trust your word?
Right.
But the O'Driscolls themselves, we hear like numerous little tidbits. And of course, Kieran talking about like them being similar is kind of interesting because, of course, like I mentioned, with the Dalton brothers being cousins to Cole and Jim Younger, I kind of believe that the Vanderlyn gang is, well, of course, it's inspired by like a bunch of different gangs. Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch. I mean, quite literally with Butch and Dutch. And then, but with a lot of like their robberies and stuff too, because the Lemoyne National Bank and the Northfield National Bank are, of course, both the last major robberies like for the gang. Granted, Jesse doesn't end up getting killed until a couple years after Northfield, and in game it's maybe a couple of months after when it all falls apart.
So we will talk more about the O'Driscolls and a lot of this stuff. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about the O'Driscolls a lot throughout chapter 2 and all the way through chapter 6. So we will come back to this for sure. But before we wrap up this episode, we also need to talk about a few other places in the Heartlands. There is Carmody Dell and Downs Ranch. Yeah, there's Carmody Dell, which we visit with Hosea, of course, during the mission where we unlock the fence, where we have to steal a stagecoach from
Yes,
Seamus's
Friends of
crooked cousin by
America.
marriage.
Yep. And then we also encounter Bob Crawford in Red Dead Online. But it's interesting because we talked to him up at Painted Sky, and I feel like
Oh yeah, I totally
it's
forgot about
interesting
that.
because it's Mr. Roble that owns Painted Sky. Because you go up there for a debt collection. It's one of the first debt collections you can do with Leopold Strauss, which we'll get into when we get into Horseshoe. But it's interesting that you meet him at Painted Sky instead of Carmody Dell.
Yeah, that is odd.
And then in that like online mission, he just sends you to like Limpany to capture a few outlaws, and then you come back and you can either kill them, leave them on the tracks, or let them go.
And then there's also Downs Ranch, which we of course know that's where we find Thomas Downs
Yep.
and his wife and son. That is where Arthur gets sick,
Yeah.
unfortunately. There's not a whole lot to say about Downs Ranch. I mean,
Not without getting
not without getting into chapter
into
2.
the
We'll talk about
mission.
that more. Yeah, we'll talk about that more. But another thing that is in the Heartlands that we didn't include in our notes, but I just thought of Chelonians.
Oh yeah.
Which, like, there's the mission of the Chelonians where you go save Jamie for Mary if you decide to help Mary. But there's also like more to the Chelonians than just that mission. We also find the Chelonians handing out pamphlets at the park in Saint Denis. And I believe aren't the Chelonians based off of like a real life cult too? Like there was more to the Chelonians than
Probably.
just that one episode, like or that one mission.
Yeah, there probably is.
The turtle cult. Okay, so they hold turtles in high regard, considering them sacred and often wearing clothing featuring turtle emblems, carrying turtle-shaped satchels. Members believe they can escape the evils of modern America by hiding in a shell of safety. During confrontations, they sometimes group together, mimicking a turtle's shell. The group is led by Anders Helgerson. Again, I'm going to butcher last names the entirety of this entire podcast forever for the rest of my life, so I'm doing my best. But the group is led by Anders, who actively recruits people in Saint Denis and the surrounding hills. The cult leads members to jump off cliffs, believing their faith will protect them, essentially to join their master in the promised land. Their pamphlets speak of swimming during the wrong moon cycle and eating fruits and nuts, promising a paradise without anger or revenge. There's also a hidden camp of group. There's a hidden camp with a group of dead Chelonians that can be found in Cholla Springs in the area of New Austin in the epilogue, suggesting their reach extended quite far. The Chelonians are likely a reference to the Epsilon program from Grand Theft Auto 5, with some members wearing similar baby blue colors and engaging in similar financial exploitation. Some fans believe the cult is a thematic mirror to Dutch's gang, a charismatic leader asking for complete trust and money from followers who believe they're special. If you kill the leader during the Jamie rescue mission in Chapter 2, you fail the mission, but you trigger a unique cutscene. I don't know what that cutscene is.
All of the Chelonians will run off the cliff.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to be wrong. So yeah, you trigger that cutscene and all the Chelonians run off the cliff. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the Heartlands specifically? Which area is your favorite?
Honestly, I mean, I think it was the Heartlands for like a really long time, but I think now it's probably Scarlet Meadows.
Really? Scarlet Meadows is?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I would have never guessed. Is that because of like your story?
I think a lot of it is, yeah.
That makes sense.
But it's also like, I don't know, I've always loved, like, I guess even when it comes to like more of like the history and stuff, is like the Deep South and like Alabama and like the classic like red clay type of a vibe.
It's funny because like you and I have been playing for 2 years together, and I never would have guessed that you'd ever say that was your favorite.
Yeah, it's like both areas are great. I do go between, of course, the areas quite frequently. I mean, of course, Big Valley is great, especially by Little Creek River.
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
Absolutely beautiful.
I mean, the whole game is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. But it's like out of like entire like regions,
Yeah.
I would probably say Scarlet Meadows.
Hmm.
Plus, it's like I feel like, I mean, just based on this episode alone, that there's a lot more lore in Scarlet Meadows.
Yeah. I love the Heartlands. That was, I mean, obviously that's going to be like everyone's favorite because that's where we start out at, and like
Mm-hmm.
things are good there. But like me, my family's from Nebraska, so feeling like I'm there, it was like nostalgic to me because like we used to go to Nebraska every summer. Like it sounds probably there's
It's
probably a
funny.
lot of people that are like, ew, Nebraska.
It's funny you saying that and me saying, "Oh yeah, I love Scarlet Meadows because it's the South and I'm the furthest away."
Yeah, I know you're up in Minnesota, freezing your ass off right now.
Yeah. Hey, it's 56. I'm fine.
Oh, heat wave.
Heat wave.
Yeah, like we used to go to Nebraska every summer, and at the point that the game came out, I hadn't been to Nebraska in I think about 8 years.
Okay.
So it had been a long time since I had been out there, and of course, like I missed like my grandparents and stuff who have unfortunately passed away, and I have a lot of family in western Nebraska that I have since gone back and seen. But like being there in the game just felt like home to me. And then, like, of course, when I went back to Nebraska in 2023 and being out in what quite literally feels like Valentine, I didn't go
Mm-hmm.
to Valentine itself. I didn't go to real life Valentine, but like just the monuments and cliffs and shit out there, it is just like the game. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so fucking beautiful. I love it out there. I love that the sky looks big. And I love the smell of prairie rain. Oh my god. Make it a candle. Prairie rain. I love it. All right. I think that about does it for this episode. And that's it for us today, partner. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at the Outlaw Haven. It really means a lot to us. And if you like what you heard, we upload every Thursday at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss what's coming next. I'm Sam,
I'm Zaya.
and this is the Outlaw Haven.